Have you ever wondered why the moment you stop studying, your brain actually begins to work harder? Close your eyes for a moment. Breathe slowly. Right now, in this very second, millions of neural connections are firing within you. Some are processing what you just read. Others are organizing memories from days ago. And tonight, while you rest, your brain will accomplish something extraordinary that no amount of daytime effort could achieve alone. Welcome. Before we begin this journey into the invisible university of your mind, I invite you to subscribe to Relaxing Science. Give this video a like and share in the comments below where you are right now and what time it is there. Your presence here matters, and your voice helps us create more content like this. Tonight we explore one of neuroscience's most beautiful paradoxes. Learning happens not when you are awake and struggling, but when you are asleep and still. This is the story of your midnight student, the part of you that never stops learning, even when your conscious mind has surrendered to rest. Think about a moment when you learned something difficult. Perhaps it was a musical piece, a new language, a complex skill. You practiced during the day. Your fingers moved, your mind focused. You felt frustrated, you felt progress, then you slept. And when you woke, something had shifted. The skill felt smoother. The memory felt stronger. The knowledge had somehow reorganized itself into something more fluid, more integrated, more yours. This is not imagination. This is not motivation speaking. This is your brain's most fundamental learning mechanism at work. For centuries, sleep was viewed as a pause button, a time when the mind went dormant, when nothing important happened. We now know this was profoundly wrong. Sleep is not the absence of learning. Sleep is where learning is completed. Sleep is where knowledge becomes wisdom. Imagine your brain as a vast library. During the day, you are the librarian, frantically receiving new books, new information, new experiences. You place them on tables, on floors, everywhere. It is chaotic. It is overwhelming. Nothing is organized. But then night arrives, the library closes. The conscious mind steps away, and the night shift begins. Deep within your brain, in a structure called the hippocampus, something extraordinary happens. This seahorse-shaped region, no larger than your thumb, becomes the maestro of a grand orchestra. It conducts a symphony of neural activity. It reviews the day's experiences. It strengthens some connections. It weakens others. It decides what matters and what can be forgotten. It transforms scattered information into integrated knowledge. This process is called memory consolidation, and it is the cornerstone of all learning. Students who sleep after studying remember more than students who stay awake. This is not because rest is passive. It is because sleep is intensely active. Your brain is working, reorganizing, creating new neural pathways, building the architecture of understanding. A night of good sleep can teach you more than another hour of frantic studying. Consider the musician who practices a difficult passage all day. Their fingers are tired. Progress feels slow. But after sleep, something changes. The passage flows more naturally. The muscle memory has deepened. The brain has had time to consolidate the motor learning, to weave it into the fabric of automatic skill. The sleep did what the practice alone could not. Or think of the student learning a new language. They memorize vocabulary all day. Words feel foreign, disconnected, effortful. But after sleep, those words have migrated into deeper memory structures. They feel more familiar. They connect to other words. They become part of a living system of language, not isolated facts. This happens because of what scientists call systems consolidation. During sleep, information travels from the hippocampus, your short-term learning hub, to the cortex, your long-term memory storage. It is a gentle migration, a transfer of knowledge from the temporary inbox to the permanent library. Without this nightly transfer, nothing you learn would stick. Everything would fade. But here is something even more beautiful. Sleep does not just preserve what you learned, it transforms it. Your brain makes new connections while you sleep. It finds patterns you never consciously noticed. It integrates new knowledge with old knowledge in ways that create genuine insight. Sleep is not just a filing system, it is a creativity engine. This is why many great discoveries, inventions, and artistic breakthroughs came after sleep. The conscious mind had stepped aside. The deeper mind had taken over. And in that darkness, in that stillness, new understanding was born. Your brain is always learning, but it learns best when you are not trying to learn. It consolidates best when you are not consciously aware. This is the paradox that makes sleep one of nature's most elegant solutions to the human need for growth and understanding. Tonight, as you rest, your brain will review everything you experienced today. It will strengthen the memories that matter. It will organize the knowledge you gathered. It will prepare you for tomorrow. And it will do this without any effort from you. You simply need to sleep. The most effective learning strategy is not longer study sessions. It is better sleep. It is rest. It is the willingness to step back and let your brain do what it evolved to do over millions of years. Consolidate experience into knowledge, transform information into wisdom. As we move deeper into this exploration, we will discover exactly how this midnight learning works. We will meet the structures of your brain that make this possible. We will understand the rhythms and stages that transform rest into growth. We will learn why sleep is not a luxury, but a fundamental pillar of intelligence itself. But for now, simply know this: you are not resting when you sleep. You are studying. Your brain is in school. And the curriculum is your own life. Let your mind settle into this thought. Breathe with it. Feel the relief it brings. You do not need to be awake to be learning. You do not need to be struggling to be growing. Sometimes, the most powerful learning happens in silence, in darkness, in the gentle stillness of sleep. As we established, your brain never truly rests. While you sleep, something remarkable unfolds. A process so intricate that neuroscientists are still uncovering its depths. Tonight, we dive deeper into the machinery behind this nocturnal transformation. We explore the gateway through which all learning passes, the hippocampus. Imagine a library where information arrives constantly throughout your day. Every conversation, every skill you practice, every moment of discovery enters through a single door. That door is your hippocampus. This seahorse-shaped structure, nestled deep within your brain, acts as the first responder to everything you experience. The hippocampus does not store memories permanently. Instead, it captures them temporarily. Think of it as a receiving station, a place where raw experience is sorted and tagged. When you learn something new, a language, a melody, a mathematical concept, the hippocampus immediately begins processing. Neurons fire in specific patterns. Connections strengthen. The experience is encoded. But here is what makes this fascinating. The hippocampus has limited capacity. It can only hold so much information at once. This is why you forget small details throughout the day. Your brain is deliberately letting go of irrelevant information to make room for what truly matters. It is not a flaw. It is design. During wakefulness, your hippocampus works like a filter. It receives millions of sensory inputs every second. Most are ignored. Some are tagged as important. When you focus intentionally, when you study, practice, or experience something emotionally significant, the hippocampus strengthens the encoding. The signal becomes louder. Students who study and then sleep immediately remember more than those who study and stay awake. This is not coincidence. Researchers have documented this across countless studies. When you learn and then rest, your brain prioritizes that information. It recognizes the recent activity and marks it as significant. The mechanism is elegant. During wakefulness, the hippocampus receives input from your senses and from your cortex, the outer layer of your brain where conscious thinking happens. Information flows in, patterns emerge. But consolidation, the process of moving information into long-term storage, requires something different. It requires sleep. Here is where the story deepens. Your hippocampus is not isolated. It connects to the cortex through neural pathways. These pathways are like bridges carrying cargo from one shore to another. During the day, these bridges are busy with incoming traffic. At night, the direction reverses. When you enter sleep, the hippocampus begins a process called memory replay. It reactivates the neural patterns from your learning experience. The same neurons that fired when you learned something fire again, but in a compressed, accelerated way. What took minutes to learn can be replayed in seconds during sleep. This replay is not random. It is selective. Your brain prioritizes what matters. Emotional experiences get replayed more. Information linked to your goals gets prioritized. The brain knows somehow what deserves to be remembered. Scientists have recorded this directly. Using electrodes in animal brains, researchers observed neurons firing in identical sequences during sleep, as they did during learning. The replay was unmistakable. The same neural code, the same order, but faster, more efficient. With each replay, something shifts. The connections between neurons strengthen through a process called long-term potentiation. Synapses, the gaps between neurons, become more responsive. The pathway becomes more efficient. Information moves from temporary storage in the hippocampus to permanent storage in the cortex. This transfer is gradual. It does not happen in a single night. Learning consolidates over days and weeks. Each night adds another layer. Each replay strengthens the trace. This is why cramming before an exam is less effective than studying consistently over time. Your brain needs multiple sleep cycles to fully integrate knowledge. The hippocampus also does something unexpected. During replay, it does not simply copy information, it reorganizes it. Memories from different times and places get linked together. Connections form between seemingly unrelated concepts. This is how your brain generates new insights. You have experienced this. You struggle with a problem all day. You sleep, you wake, and suddenly see the solution. Your hippocampus worked through the night, making connections your conscious mind could not. This is not magic, it is neurobiology. Different types of learning engage the hippocampus differently. Declarative memories, facts, events, information you can consciously recall, depend heavily on the hippocampus. But procedural memories, skills, habits, things your body knows how to do, involve different systems. Yet sleep benefits both. When you practice an instrument, your motor cortex learns the movements, but the hippocampus tracks the context, the sequence, the meaning. During sleep, both systems consolidate. The next day, your fingers remember the movements more smoothly. The music feels more natural. This is why musicians, athletes, and students all benefit from sleep after practice. The consolidation is not optional, it is essential. Without sleep, learning remains fragile. With sleep, it becomes robust. The hippocampus is also sensitive to stress. When cortisol levels are high, the hippocampus functions less efficiently. This is why anxiety undermines learning. Your brain cannot consolidate information properly when you are stressed. This is why rest is not a luxury. It is a requirement for learning. As you listen to these words, your hippocampus is working. It is tagging this information as potentially important. Later, during sleep, it will replay these concepts. Connections will form between what you knew before and what you are learning now. Your understanding will deepen. The beauty of this system is that it operates without your conscious effort. You do not need to do anything special. Simply learn something, then sleep. Your brain handles the rest. The hippocampus will do its work. The consolidation will happen. The transformation will occur. This is the gateway through which all learning passes. Understanding it transforms how you approach rest. Sleep is not downtime. It is the most active learning period of your day. Your brain is most productive when you are most still. Now that you understand how your hippocampus captures and sorts information, let's explore what happens next. Your brain does not simply store memories like files in a drawer. Instead, it rehearses them. It practices them. It replays them thousands of times while you sleep, strengthening the neural pathways that matter most. This is called neural replay, and it is perhaps the most fascinating mechanism of learning that science has ever discovered. Imagine your brain as a musician who has just learned a new piece. The performance is clumsy at first, notes are missed, timing is off. But then the musician goes home and practices in silence, repeating the melody over and over until it becomes smooth, automatic, effortless. Your brain does exactly this during sleep. When you close your eyes at night, your hippocampus, that seahorse-shaped region we discussed earlier, begins a remarkable process. It takes the neural patterns from your day, the conversations you had, the skills you practiced, the emotions you felt, and it replays them. Not once, not twice, hundreds of times, thousands of times. This replay is not random. It is selective, purposeful. Your brain prioritizes memories that matter to your survival, your goals, your emotional well-being. A conversation with someone you love is replayed more intensely than a forgotten advertisement. A new skill you worked on is rehearsed more thoroughly than a passive observation. The speed of this replay is extraordinary. What took you 10 minutes to experience during the day is replayed in just seconds while you sleep. Your brain compresses time, running through the neural patterns at accelerated speed, strengthening the connections with each pass. Think of it like this. When you first learn to ride a bicycle, your conscious mind is overwhelmed. Balance, pedaling, steering, breathing. You must think about everything. But after weeks of practice, something shifts. Your brain has replayed those patterns so many times during sleep that the skill becomes automatic. You no longer think about balance. Your body simply knows. This is the power of neural replay. Scientists have observed this process directly. They placed electrodes in the brains of sleeping rats and watched as the animals replayed the exact same neural patterns they had activated while running through a maze. The same neurons fired in the same sequence, but faster, compressed, more efficiently. The rats were not physically running the maze, they were dreaming it, practicing it in their sleep. When researchers later tested these rats, they found something remarkable. The rats that slept after learning the maze solved it faster than rats that were kept awake. The sleep-deprived rats had the same experience, the same practice, but without the neural replay. They learned more slowly, they made more mistakes, they forgot more. This is not unique to rats. The same principle applies to you. A student who studies for 2 hours and then sleeps will remember more than a student who studies for 4 hours without sleep. The extra sleep time is worth more than the extra study time. This is because sleep is when the actual learning happens. Study is when information enters your brain. Sleep is when your brain decides what to keep, what to strengthen, what to integrate into your permanent knowledge. But here is something even more fascinating. The replay is not a simple copy. Your brain does not just repeat the neural patterns exactly as they occurred. Instead, it makes creative connections. It links new information to existing memories. It finds patterns you did not consciously notice. It makes insights that were invisible during the day. This is why people often wake up with solutions to problems they were struggling with the night before. It is why musicians, mathematicians, and writers frequently report that sleep brought them breakthrough ideas. Their brains were not resting. They were working. They were replaying, reorganizing, discovering. The replay happens across different stages of sleep, but it is most intense during certain phases. During lighter sleep, the replay is faster, more fragmented, more creative. During deeper sleep, it becomes slower, more methodical, more focused on transferring information from short-term to long-term storage. Your brain is essentially running a simulation. It is practicing the skill, the memory, the knowledge in a safe space where there are no consequences for mistakes. It is optimizing, refining, perfecting. By the time you wake up, the neural pathways have been strengthened thousands of times over. This is why sleep is not a luxury. It is not something you do when you have nothing better to do. Sleep is when the real learning happens. Sleep is when your brain consolidates knowledge into wisdom. Sleep is when a student becomes a scholar, when a beginner becomes a master, when information becomes understanding. Consider what this means for your own life. Every night you sleep, your brain is working. It is rehearsing the conversations you had, the skills you practiced, the knowledge you encountered. It is deciding what matters. It is strengthening what you need. It is preparing you for tomorrow with a brain that is more capable, more knowledgeable, more skilled than the one that fell asleep. You are not wasting time when you sleep. You are investing in yourself. You are giving your brain permission to do what it was designed to do: learn, grow, evolve. The next layer of this process takes us even deeper. We move from the rapid rehearsal of neural replay into the profound silence of deep sleep, where something even more dramatic occurs, where memories are not just strengthened but fundamentally transformed, where information becomes permanent. But first, I want to know, are you beginning to feel the weight of understanding? Are you starting to see sleep not as rest, but as the most important learning tool you possess? You have already learned how your brain rehearses memories during sleep, compressing hours of experience into seconds of neural replay. Now we move deeper into the machinery itself. What happens during those moments when your mind enters its most profound silence, There exists a state of sleep so deep, so quiet, that your brain waves slow to a rhythm almost like the tides of an ocean. This is slow wave sleep, and it is here in this gentle darkness that something remarkable occurs. The transfer of knowledge from temporary storage to permanent memory becomes most efficient. Imagine your hippocampus as a busy postal worker. During the day, it collects thousands of letters, experiences, facts, moments. It sorts them, organizes them, holds them in a small sorting office. But that office has limited space. Every night when you enter slow wave sleep, those letters begin their journey outward. They travel through neural pathways to the cortex, where they will be filed away permanently. This is not a rushed process, it is deliberate, methodical, beautiful in its precision. The brain waves during slow wave sleep move at frequencies between 1 and 4 cycles per second. This is the slowest rhythm your brain produces, slower than your heartbeat at rest, slower than your breath as you drift towards sleep. In this slowness there is power. During these slow waves, something called memory consolidation reaches its peak. The hippocampus and cortex engage in a conversation that has been happening for millions of years, across every human who has ever slept. The hippocampus sends signals. Remember this moment. This fact matters. This skill you practice today. It belongs in your permanent collection. The cortex listens. It integrates. It weaves the new memory into the vast tapestry of everything you already know. This is why students who sleep after studying remember more than those who stay awake cramming. The science is clear, yet so many ignore it. A student who studies for 2 hours and then sleeps will retain more than a student who studies for 4 hours without sleep. The difference is not in the amount of time spent, it is in what happens during the silence. Your brain does not simply store memories like files in a computer, it connects them. A fact you learned today about history becomes linked to a story you heard years ago. A skill you practiced becomes integrated with muscle memory from childhood. During slow wave sleep, these connections multiply. Your knowledge becomes richer, more nuanced, more creative. Consider a musician who practices a difficult passage. The first day, the fingers stumble. The timing is imperfect. But that night, during slow wave sleep, something shifts. The neural patterns strengthen. The cortex refines the motor commands. The next morning, the musician plays the passage with surprising fluidity. No additional practice happened, only sleep. Only the brain's internal rehearsal in the silence of slow waves. This process is selective. Your brain does not consolidate everything equally. Memories tied to emotion are prioritized. Information connected to your goals receives special attention. A fact you found interesting gets stronger consolidation than a random detail. Your sleeping brain knows what matters to you. The slow waves themselves are generated by a dialogue between the thalamus and cortex. The thalamus acts like a gatekeeper, filtering incoming sensory information. During slow wave sleep, it becomes quiet. Fewer signals arrive from the outside world. The cortex can focus entirely on internal work, on reorganization, on integration. This is why sleeping in a quiet, dark room is important. External noise and light trigger the thalamus to remain partially alert. Your slow waves become shallower. The consolidation process becomes less efficient. You wake feeling less rested because your brain did not complete its full work. Slow wave sleep typically occupies about 20% of your total sleep time. The rest is lighter sleep and rapid eye movement sleep, which we will explore soon. But those slow wave periods, though brief, are profound. They are when the heaviest lifting happens. When your brain transforms experience into knowledge. Here is something beautiful to contemplate. While you sleep, your brain is more active than you realize. It is not resting, it is working. But this work feels like rest because it is internal. There is no struggle, no effort, just the quiet, methodical transfer of understanding from temporary to permanent, from novelty to wisdom. Think of someone you know who learned a language. In the beginning, every word felt foreign. Every sentence required conscious effort. But after months of practice combined with sleep, something shifts. The language becomes intuitive. Words arrive without thinking. This transformation happened largely during sleep, during slow waves, during the silence. Your brain is always learning, even when you are not aware of it, especially when you are not aware of it. The most profound learning happens in the darkness, in the quiet, in the slowness of deep sleep. This is not poetic exaggeration. This is neurobiology. As you move forward in understanding sleep, remember this. Slow-wave sleep is where consolidation happens most efficiently. It is where temporary becomes permanent, where experience becomes knowledge, where practice becomes mastery. This is the gift your brain gives you every night, if you allow it to sleep deeply. As those slow brain waves deepen your memories into permanent storage, something else awakens in the darkness. Your eyes begin to move rapidly beneath closed lids, tracing invisible patterns across the night. This is where emotion meets learning, where your mind solves problems you thought impossible. Rapid eye movement sleep, or REM, arrives in waves throughout the night. Unlike the steady, deep rhythms of slow-wave sleep, REM brings a different kind of brain activity. Your cortex lights up with patterns similar to waking consciousness. Yet your body remains still, paralyzed by a protective mechanism that keeps you safe while your mind explores freely. Here is the paradox. During REM sleep, your brain is intensely active, yet you feel rested. This is not contradiction. This is design. Your neural networks are reorganizing, but in a way that requires no physical movement, no energy expenditure. You are learning while completely at peace. Think of slow-wave sleep as filing documents into a vast library. Memories are sorted, organized, moved from temporary storage to permanent shelves. REM sleep is different. During these vivid dream states, your brain is not simply storing information. It is weaving connections between distant ideas, creating bridges between old knowledge and new understanding. A musician practices a difficult passage for hours. The fingers struggle. The mind focuses intensely. Sleep arrives. During slow-wave sleep, the neural patterns of that passage are replayed and strengthened. But during REM sleep, something unexpected happens. The brain begins combining that musical phrase with other memories, other emotional contexts, other creative possibilities. The musician wakes and discovers the passage now flows differently, more beautifully, in ways the conscious mind never imagined. This is emotional learning at work. REM sleep prioritizes memories tied to feeling. The more emotionally significant an experience, the more REM sleep your brain dedicates to processing it. A conversation that moved you deeply, a moment of discovery, a challenge that stirred your determination. These are the memories your REM cycles will visit and revisit, weaving them into your identity and understanding. Scientists have observed this through brain imaging. During REM sleep, the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for logic and self-awareness, quiets down. Meanwhile, the limbic system, which governs emotion and creativity, becomes more active. This is why dreams feel so vivid, so emotionally intense, yet so illogical. Your rational mind steps back, allowing emotion and imagination to lead. Consider a student struggling with a complex problem in mathematics or art or science. The student works, thinks, grows frustrated. Sleep comes. During slow-wave sleep, the solution pathway is strengthened. But during REM sleep, the brain steps back from linear thinking. It explores the problem sideways, upside down, from angles the conscious mind never considered. The student wakes with sudden clarity. The answer arrives not through effort, but through the creative reorganization that only REM sleep provides. This is why sleep deprivation damages creativity before it damages memory. You can survive without storing new memories for a short time. But without REM sleep, your mind loses its ability to think sideways, to see connections, to imagine solutions. Creative people throughout history have understood this intuitively. They sleep, they dream, and in those dreams, their deepest work takes shape. Emotional memories require more REM sleep than neutral facts. Your brain allocates resources based on significance. A list of vocabulary words receives some REM processing, but a personal story, a moment of joy or fear, a relationship that matters, these receive extensive REM cycles. Your brain is asking, is this important to who you are? Does this connect to my values and identity? If the answer is yes, REM sleep ensures that memory becomes woven into your sense of self. This explains why traumatic memories feel so vivid and intrusive. They received intense REM processing, because they were emotionally significant. The brain was trying to integrate them, to understand them, to make sense of them. This is why trauma therapy often works with sleep and dreams. The same mechanisms that encoded the trauma in the first place can be gently guided toward healing. Now, picture your night unfolding. Early cycles bring longer periods of slow-wave sleep, moving memories into permanent storage. As the night deepens, REM sleep becomes longer and more frequent. The final hours before waking are dominated by REM. Your dreams become vivid. Your emotional and creative processing reaches its peak. This is why interrupted sleep damages learning more severely than shortened sleep. If you sleep only 5 hours but sleep deeply and completely, your brain completes multiple full cycles. But if you sleep 8 hours with frequent interruptions, your REM cycles are fragmented. The creative reorganization cannot fully happen. The emotional integration remains incomplete. The implications are profound. You cannot rush learning by studying longer. You cannot force creativity through effort alone. The only way to truly integrate knowledge, to make it part of who you are, to unlock creative solutions, the only way is to sleep without interruption. To allow your brain to move through the full architecture of sleep cycles, from slow-wave consolidation to REM reorganization. Some athletes have discovered this. They practice intensely, then they sleep. The sleep is not recovery from practice. It is the continuation of practice. The brain is still working, still learning, still refining. The difference is that during sleep, the learning happens without conscious effort, without fatigue, without the limitations of waking attention. As you move deeper into the night, trust this process. Your eyes may move rapidly beneath closed lids. Your dreams may be vivid and strange. This is not disturbance, this is your brain at its most creative, your mind at its most integrated. You are becoming more fully yourself. You are learning in the deepest sense, not accumulating facts, but weaving experience into wisdom, emotion into understanding, challenge into growth. Your hands know things your mind has never consciously learned. A pianist's fingers find the right keys without thinking. A dancer's body remembers choreography from weeks ago. A surgeon's hands move with precision, earned through thousands of repetitions. This is not magic. This is your brain working in the darkness, perfecting skills while you rest. Sleep does something extraordinary with physical abilities. Unlike memories of facts or events, motor skills require a different kind of consolidation. When you practice a new movement during the day, your brain creates a rough draft. The actual mastery happens later when you are asleep. Consider what happens when you learn to play a musical instrument. You sit at the piano for an hour, practicing scales. Your fingers stumble. You make mistakes. You feel frustrated. Then you sleep. During that sleep, something shifts. The next morning, the same passage feels smoother. Your fingers know where to go. You have not practiced since yesterday, yet you are better. This improvement is not imagination. It is neuroscience. Motor learning travels through specific brain regions. The motor cortex, which controls movement, works with the cerebellum and basal ganglia during learning. These structures communicate intensely during sleep. Slow-wave sleep, the deep sleep you experienced in earlier stages of your night, strengthens these motor pathways. But something else happens too. During REM sleep, your brain does not just replay the movement. It refines it. It removes unnecessary tension. It optimizes the sequence. Your brain is literally practicing while you dream. Studies show that people who sleep after learning a motor skill improve more than those who stay awake. The improvement is measurable, significant, and consistent across different types of skills. Think about learning to drive. On your first day, every action feels deliberate. You think about steering, you think about the pedals, you think about checking mirrors. Your conscious mind is overwhelmed, but after weeks of driving, something changes. You drive without thinking, your hands turn the wheel automatically, your foot finds the brake without conscious command. Sleep made this possible. This automatic quality is called procedural memory. It is different from declarative memory, which stores facts and events. Procedural memory is embedded in your muscles and motor patterns. Sleep consolidates procedural memory more efficiently than any waking practice can achieve. You could study driving theory for hours and still be unprepared for the road. But sleep, combined with practice, transforms conscious effort into automatic skill. Athletes understand this intuitively. Elite performers prioritize sleep not as recovery, but as training. A basketball player shoots 100 free throws during practice. That night during sleep, the brain replays and refines each shot. The neural patterns that control the movement are strengthened, the timing is perfected, the muscle memory deepens. When the player takes the court again, the skill has advanced. The consolidation of motor skills follows a specific timeline. Immediately after learning, the skill is fragile. It can be disrupted or forgotten. But as hours pass, and especially during sleep, the memory becomes stable. This process is called systems consolidation. The motor cortex gradually takes over the task from the hippocampus. The skill becomes automatic, reliable, and resistant to forgetting. What makes this process beautiful is that sleep does not just preserve the skill, it enhances it. Improvements continue even without additional practice. A musician who learns a difficult passage in the evening will find it easier the next morning, even without rehearsing. A language learner who practices pronunciation before sleep will sound more natural the next day. Sleep adds something that waking practice alone cannot provide. This is why cramming before an exam is less effective than distributed practice with sleep. Your brain needs time to consolidate. It needs sleep to integrate new skills into existing neural networks. A student who studies for 2 hours sleeps, then reviews briefly will remember more than a student who studies for 4 hours continuously. Sleep is not wasted time. It is when learning actually becomes permanent. The emotional dimension of skill learning also matters. When you practice something you care about, sleep consolidates it more powerfully. A musician passionate about a piece will improve faster than someone practicing reluctantly. Your emotional engagement during the day influences how intensely your brain processes the skill during sleep. Passion and sleep work together. As you drift toward deeper sleep tonight, your brain will be working. If you learn something new today, your motor cortex will replay it. Your cerebellum will refine it. Your basal ganglia will integrate it into automatic patterns. You will not be conscious of this work. You will simply wake tomorrow slightly better than you were today. This is the gift of sleep to skill. It is the reason why rest is not laziness. It is the reason why a good night's sleep before a performance matters more than staying up late practicing. Your brain has already done the practicing. Now it is consolidating. Now it is perfecting. Now it is making you ready. And here is something to hold as you listen. Every skill you have ever mastered was perfected in sleep. The things you do automatically without thinking became automatic because of sleep. Your brain is not resting when you sleep. It is graduating from student to master. It is transforming effort into ease. It is making you capable of things you could not do before. Your hands learned to play that chord while you slept. Your mind rehearsed that presentation in silence. Your brain studied the language you struggled with during the day, all without your conscious effort. This is the paradox of learning. Sometimes doing nothing accomplishes more than endless repetition. We have explored how slow waves transfer memories into permanence, how emotions reshape your neural landscape, and how your body perfects skills in darkness. Now we arrive at something equally profound, the mechanism that prevents forgetting itself. Sleep does not simply store information. It actively reverses decay. Think of memory like a river. Without water, it dries. Without maintenance, it disappears. But sleep is the spring that keeps that river flowing. Every time you learn something new, your brain creates a fragile connection. This connection is vulnerable. Without reinforcement, it weakens within hours. Scientists call this the forgetting curve. Ebbinghaus discovered it in the 1870s. He showed that forgetting happens rapidly unless we revisit information. But here is where sleep transforms everything. When you sleep after learning, something remarkable occurs. The neural pathways you created during the day do not fade. Instead, they strengthen. The connections deepen. The memory becomes resistant to decay. Your hippocampus, that seahorse-shaped structure we discussed earlier, acts as a temporary storage. During sleep, it does not simply transfer information to your cortex, it selectively reinforces the pathways most worth keeping. Not everything you learn today deserves equal protection. Your brain knows this. It prioritizes what matters: emotional significance, relevance to your goals, patterns that might repeat. Imagine your brain as a sculptor. During the day, you gather clay. During sleep, the sculptor refines it. Unnecessary details fall away. Essential structures become clearer. The sculpture hardens. What once felt fragile becomes durable. This is why students who sleep after studying remember more than those who cram through the night. The cramming creates temporary activation, but activation fades. Sleep creates structural change. It alters the physical architecture of your brain. The process involves something called systems consolidation. During slow-wave sleep, your cortex receives replayed memories from your hippocampus, but this replay is not a simple copy. It is a transformation. The cortex integrates new information with existing knowledge. Connections that matter grow stronger. Weak connections dissolve. Your brain essentially asks, does this fit with what I already know? Does this pattern matter? Should this become permanent? This selectivity is crucial. If your brain stored everything with equal strength, you would drown in noise. You would remember every irrelevant detail from every day. Instead, your brain is merciful. It forgets what does not matter and preserves what does. Consider learning a new language. You practice vocabulary during the day. The words feel fragile in your mind. You are not sure you will remember them tomorrow. But you sleep. During sleep, your brain connects these new words to similar sounds, meanings, and patterns you already know. The new integrates with the old. By morning, the words feel more solid. They have roots now. They belong to a larger structure. This happens across all domains. Musicians learn pieces by sleeping on them. Mathematicians solve problems in sleep. Writers find solutions to narrative problems after rest. This is not mystical, it is neurobiology. Your brain continues working while you rest. It organizes, refines, and strengthens. The forgetting curve, that inevitable decline, becomes reversible through sleep. Each sleep cycle after learning resets the curve. The rate of forgetting slows. The memory becomes more resistant. With repeated sleep learning cycles, the memory eventually enters long-term storage so deeply that forgetting becomes nearly impossible. This explains why distributed practice with sleep between sessions outperforms massed practice without rest. One study showed that students who slept between learning sessions retained information 3 times better than those who did not sleep. The difference was not in effort. It was in allowing neural consolidation to occur. Your brain is most efficient when you respect its natural rhythm. Learn, then rest. Practice, then sleep. Create, then dream. This cycle is not a luxury. It is the architecture of human learning. As you lie in bed tonight, know that your brain is not idle. It is reviewing. It is refining. It is protecting what you have learned. The neural pathways you created today are being hardened. The forgetting curve is being reversed. You are becoming more capable, not through additional effort, but through the grace of rest. The practical implication is simple. If you want to learn effectively, prioritize sleep, not as recovery, but as learning itself. Sleep is not the opposite of learning, it is learning continued in a different form. It is the consolidation that transforms temporary activation into permanent knowledge. This understanding should change how you approach your day. Before an important exam, sleep matters more than the final hour of cramming. Before a performance, rest matters more than last-minute practice. Before mastering a skill, recovery is not laziness, it is training. Your brain is a student that studies best in silence, in darkness, in the gentle waves of sleep. Honor this. Respect the rhythm. Learn during the day, and let your brain complete the work at night. The forgetting curve reverses not through force, but through rest. And in that reversal lies the secret to becoming truly knowledgeable, truly skilled, truly capable. Your brain does not rest when you sleep. Instead, it rehearses. Every skill you learned today, every fact you studied, every conversation you had, your mind replays these moments while you drift into darkness. This is not imagination. This is neuroscience. Think of sleep as a private theater where your brain performs what it learned. During the day, you gathered information like an actor collecting lines. At night, that actor steps onto an empty stage and practices those lines alone, refining them, connecting them to other scenes, until the performance becomes effortless. The hippocampus, that seahorse-shaped structure deep in your brain, acts as a recording device during waking hours. It captures everything. But recordings are fragile. They fade quickly. Within hours, without sleep, much of what you learned begins to dissolve. This is why cramming the night before an exam often fails. Your brain has no time to transform temporary recordings into permanent knowledge. When you sleep, something remarkable happens. The hippocampus replays the day's experiences, but not like a simple video replay. It speeds up the playback. A 10-minute conversation becomes compressed into seconds. A complex skill practiced for an hour becomes rehearsed in minutes. Your brain is not wasting time sleeping. It is conducting intensive training sessions. This replay process is called systems consolidation. You learned this concept before, now understand what happens during these rehearsals. The hippocampus sends signals to the cortex, the outer layer of your brain where long-term memories live. With each replay, connections between neurons strengthen. Pathways that seemed weak become robust. Information that felt fragile becomes solid. But here is where dreams enter the picture. Dreams are not random noise, they are evidence of this rehearsal process. When you dream, you are often experiencing a distorted, poetic version of what your brain is consolidating. A dream about being chased might reflect your brain processing anxiety from a difficult conversation. A dream about flying might represent your mind integrating a new perspective you learned. The content of your dreams matters less than the process beneath them. The dream is the surface. The consolidation is the depth. Your brain uses dreams as a workspace where it can experiment with new connections, combine old knowledge in novel ways, and prepare your mind for tomorrow's challenges. Consider what happens when you learn a musical instrument. On day one, your fingers feel clumsy. The coordination is difficult, you practice for hours, but progress feels slow. That night, during sleep, your brain replays every finger movement. During REM sleep especially, your motor cortex fires in patterns that mirror your practice session. Your brain is not just remembering the movements, it is refining them, removing unnecessary tension, optimizing the neural pathways that control your hands. When you wake, something shifts. The skill feels smoother, not because you practiced more while asleep, but because your brain consolidated the learning during sleep. This is why musicians, athletes, and dancers know that rest is part of training. Sleep is not a pause in learning. Sleep is when learning becomes automatic. The same principle applies to knowledge and understanding. You read a complex article about history or science. The information enters your short-term memory, but without sleep it remains shallow. With sleep, your brain integrates this new information with everything you already know. It finds connections. It builds meaning. The isolated fact becomes part of a larger web of understanding. This is why students who sleep after studying remember more than students who stay awake. This is why distributed practice, studying, sleeping, studying again, produces 3 times better retention than continuous cramming. Sleep is not a break from learning. Sleep is the essential phase where learning becomes real. Your brain's rehearsal during sleep is also creative. It does not simply replay memories unchanged. It combines them. It finds unexpected connections. A fact from history combines with a concept from science. An emotion from a personal experience connects to a character in a story you read. Your sleeping brain is not just preserving the past, it is creating new possibilities for the future. This is why some of your best ideas come after sleep. You struggle with a problem while awake. You sleep. You wake and suddenly the solution is clear. Your brain spent the night rehearsing the problem from different angles, making connections you could not consciously see. The answer was not in your conscious mind. It was in the rehearsal theater of your sleeping brain. The timing of sleep matters profoundly. If you learn something important and then sleep within a few hours, consolidation is strong. Your hippocampus is still active, still holding the memory fresh. The replay is vivid, the integration is efficient. But if you wait days to sleep after learning, the consolidation is weaker. The memory has already begun to fade. The rehearsal is less effective. This is why night workers and shift workers often struggle with learning and memory. Their sleep timing is disrupted. Their brain's rehearsal schedule is chaotic. The hippocampus and cortex cannot synchronize their consolidation process effectively. Knowledge remains fragmented. Your nighttime rehearsals are not optional, they are essential. Every skill you want to master requires this sleep-based consolidation. Every piece of knowledge you want to retain depends on it. Every creative solution your mind might generate needs this nocturnal practice. As you listen to these words, your brain is already preparing for tonight's rehearsals. The information you are absorbing will be replayed while you sleep. New connections will form. Understanding will deepen. You are not just listening. You are beginning a process that will continue long after you close your eyes. Consider what you want to learn. Consider what skill you want to improve. Now understand that tonight, during sleep, your brain will rehearse it. The practice will happen without your conscious effort. Your only role is to allow sleep to occur. To give your brain the time and rest it needs to transform today's learning into tomorrow's knowledge. This is the power of sleep. Not as escape, but as active consolidation. Not as rest, but as rehearsal. Your brain is a dedicated student, working through the night to master what you have learned. Your brain has learned something remarkable about timing. It is not simply about how much you sleep, but when you sleep in relation to what you have learned. This distinction changes everything about how you approach knowledge and skill. Imagine your mind as a library that reorganizes itself each night. The books are not just stored randomly on shelves. They are catalogued, cross-referenced, and integrated into an ever-growing system of understanding. But this process only happens at specific windows of time. Miss those windows, and the library remains chaotic. When you learn something new, your brain creates a fragile trace. This trace is like a pencil mark on paper, easily erased, vulnerable to interference. The hippocampus holds this information temporarily, much like a clerk at the front desk, holding important documents. These documents cannot stay at the front desk forever. They must be filed away into the permanent archives of long-term memory. Sleep is the only process that moves them. But here is what most people do not understand. Timing matters profoundly. If you cram information into your mind and then stay awake for hours afterward, your brain cannot properly file those documents. New learning interferes with the consolidation process. Each new piece of information you try to absorb pushes the previous learning further away from the filing system. You are essentially blocking your own memory formation. Students who study late into the night and then stay awake longer often remember less than students who study, then sleep. This is not because sleep is magical, it is because sleep removes interference. While you sleep, no new information enters the system. The brain can work undisturbed, transferring knowledge from temporary storage into permanent architecture. Research shows something striking. Learning followed by sleep within hours produces retention that lasts weeks or months. Learning followed by wakefulness produces retention that fades within days. The difference is not subtle. It is the difference between genuine understanding and forgotten effort. Consider what happens during the hours immediately after learning. Your brain is vulnerable. It is trying to stabilize the new neural patterns you have created. If you immediately expose yourself to new, similar information, you create competition. Your brain cannot decide which patterns are important. Both get weakened. This is why cramming fails so spectacularly. You are flooding your brain with information while simultaneously preventing it from consolidating anything. The optimal window is this: learn something, then allow your brain to rest. Not a passive rest, but an active one. During sleep, your hippocampus replays what you have learned, strengthening the neural connections. It integrates this new information with existing knowledge. It finds patterns and relationships you did not consciously notice. Then, when you wake, that knowledge has moved into your cortex, the permanent memory storage. It is now part of your long-term understanding. This is why a single night of good sleep after learning is more valuable than days of additional study without sleep. Your brain is working more efficiently during sleep than during waking study. It is not distracted. It is not trying to process new information. It is purely consolidating what matters. But there is another dimension to this timing. The brain does not treat all sleep equally. The first sleep cycle after learning is crucial. During this first cycle, your brain prioritizes the material you just learned. The hippocampus replays it intensely. The patterns are strongest. This is when the transfer to long-term memory is most efficient. If you delay sleep by many hours after learning, you lose this advantage. The hippocampus still consolidates the information, but less efficiently. More of it is forgotten before the consolidation process even begins. The window of opportunity has narrowed. This explains why students who sleep shortly after studying perform better on tests days later. It explains why athletes who sleep after practice improve more than those who practice and stay awake. It explains why musicians who sleep after rehearsal develop better muscle memory than those who continue their day without rest. The brain is not designed to learn continuously. It is designed to learn in cycles. Learn, then rest. Learn, then rest. This rhythm is built into your neurology. When you fight this rhythm, you fight your own nature. When you honor it, you become a vastly more efficient learner. Think about your own life. When have you learned something that stuck with you? Often, it was something you learned then slept on. Your mind settled around it. It became solid. Contrast this with information you crammed and then stayed awake worrying about. How much of that remains? The timing of sleep is not a luxury. It is a necessity for learning itself. Without proper timing, you can study for hours and retain almost nothing. With proper timing, you can study for shorter periods and retain vastly more. As you lie down tonight, know that your brain is preparing for its most important work. The learning you have done today is about to be filed away. Your hippocampus will replay it. Your cortex will integrate it. By morning, you will have learned more than you could have learned through additional waking study. Sleep is not a break from learning. It is learning itself, refined and perfected. The question now becomes not how long you study, but when you rest. This shift in perspective changes everything about how you approach knowledge. You have learned how timing shapes memory. Sleep within hours of learning anchors knowledge into your mind. But there is something deeper happening while you rest. Your brain is not only storing facts and skills, it is processing the weight of your day. Every experience carries emotion. Every challenge leaves an imprint. When you study under pressure, when you face difficulty, when you struggle with new information, your nervous system records not just the content, but the feeling attached to it. This is where the true magic of sleep emerges. Imagine your mind as a container that collects experiences like water filling a vessel. During the day, you pour in knowledge, stress, frustration, small victories, moments of confusion. By evening, this container feels full. Your emotional system is activated. Your cortisol remains elevated. Your mind spins with unresolved tension. Sleep is the process that drains this vessel. While you sleep, your brain does something extraordinary. It processes not the information alone, but the emotional charge attached to that information. This process is called emotional consolidation. It is gentler than it sounds. It is not about forgetting how you felt. It is about releasing the grip that emotion had on you. During slow-wave sleep, your prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for rational thought and emotional regulation, communicates deeply with your amygdala, the emotional center of your brain. This dialogue is crucial. The amygdala holds the raw emotional weight of your experiences. The prefrontal cortex brings perspective, context, and calm. When these two regions communicate during sleep, something shifts. The emotional intensity of your memories begins to soften, not disappear, soften. You remember that you felt anxious during the presentation, but the anxiety itself loses its grip. You recall the difficulty of the task, but the frustration no longer floods your system. This is why sleep is medicine for anxiety. Consider a student who learns difficult material and immediately goes to bed. During the night, the hippocampus replays this learning, as you have already discovered. But simultaneously, the amygdala is processing the stress that accompanied the learning. By morning, the student remembers the material, but the anxiety has diminished. The knowledge remains. The emotional burden has been lightened. Now imagine a student who learns the same material and stays awake, reviewing it repeatedly, growing more frustrated with each attempt. The hippocampus never gets the chance to consolidate the learning properly. The amygdala never gets the chance to process and release the emotional weight. By the next day, this student feels more anxious, remembers less, and the cycle continues. Sleep breaks this cycle. The science reveals something poetic. Your brain has evolved to separate knowledge from its emotional context. You need to remember what happened. You do not need to carry the distress forever. Sleep accomplishes this separation with remarkable precision. This process is especially powerful during REM sleep, the stage where dreams flourish. During REM, your brain reduces the production of norepinephrine, a chemical that activates your emotional alarm system. This creates a unique window. Your brain can replay emotional experiences in a state of relative calm. You can process difficult memories without the overwhelming physical sensation of stress. This is why dreams often feel strange, disconnected, even surreal. Your brain is deliberately loosening the emotional intensity while maintaining the memory itself. You might dream about a difficult conversation, but the dream feels different from the actual event. The edges are softer. The threat feels distant. When you wake, you have processed the emotional weight without being overwhelmed by it. For those who struggle with anxiety, with rumination, with the weight of accumulated stress, this understanding is liberating. Sleep is not a luxury. It is a biological necessity for emotional resilience. When you deny yourself sleep, you deny your brain the opportunity to process emotional experiences. The weight accumulates, anxiety deepens, stress becomes chronic. But when you honor sleep, when you give your brain the time it needs to process both knowledge and emotion, something shifts. You wake not just more rested, but more resilient. The challenges of yesterday feel more manageable. The stress has been metabolized. This is why people often say that things look better after a good night of sleep. It is not just a saying, it is neurobiology. Your brain has literally processed the emotional weight of your experiences and released you from its grip. The implications extend beyond individual anxiety. Think of learning itself as an emotional journey. When you learn something new, you encounter the unknown. The unknown triggers a subtle activation in your nervous system. Sleep resolves this activation. By morning, the new knowledge feels less foreign. It has been integrated not just into your memory, but into your sense of self. This integration is profound. It means that sleep does not just store information. It transforms your relationship with that information. What felt threatening or overwhelming becomes familiar. What felt difficult becomes manageable. Consider how this applies to your own life. You have faced challenges today. You have learned things that stretched your understanding. You have felt emotions that your nervous system recorded. As you approach sleep tonight, know that your brain will do something remarkable. It will hold all of these experiences. It will process them. It will separate the useful knowledge from the emotional burden. By morning, you will be lighter, not because you have forgotten, because you have been healed. The journey of learning, you see, is not just intellectual, it is emotional. And sleep is the bridge between these two dimensions of your mind. It is the process that transforms raw experience into integrated knowledge and emotional peace. Where are you listening from right now? What time is it where you rest? Your brain does not simply store what you learn, it transforms it. While you rest, something remarkable unfolds in the darkness of sleep. Your mind begins to weave separate threads of knowledge into entirely new patterns. This is the creative synthesis, the moment when learning becomes wisdom. Think of your mind as a vast library. During the day, you add new books to the shelves, but at night, a librarian works in silence, pulling volumes from different sections, opening them side by side, discovering connections that were never visible before. A melody you heard yesterday suddenly echoes with a memory from childhood. A problem you struggled with finds its solution when paired with an unrelated conversation from last week. This is not random. This is your sleeping brain at work. The process begins in regions we have already explored: the hippocampus, where new memories are first held, and the cortex, where older knowledge rests. But during sleep, something shifts. The hippocampus does not simply replay what you learned. It begins to reorganize information, to strip away unnecessary details, to find the essence of what matters. And as it does, it reaches out to distant regions of the cortex, to memories and experiences you may have forgotten you possessed. Researchers have observed this phenomenon through remarkable imaging studies. When someone learns a new skill or fact, specific neural patterns emerge. But hours later, after sleep, those same patterns have changed. The information has been integrated not in isolation, but in relation to everything else you know. The neural signature of learning transforms into the neural signature of understanding. Consider a musician learning a new composition. On the first day, the fingers stumble. The timing is imprecise. The mind is focused entirely on the mechanics, which key to press, when to press it. But after a night of sleep, something has shifted. The musician sits at the instrument and the piece flows, not because the hands have practiced more, but because the brain has spent hours reorganizing the skill, connecting it to patterns of movement learned years ago, to musical theory absorbed long ago, to emotional responses shaped by a lifetime of listening. This creative synthesis extends far beyond simple skill refinement. It is the mechanism behind insight. A scientist struggles with a problem for weeks. No solution emerges. Then one morning, after a night of sleep, the answer is suddenly obvious. This is not luck. During sleep, the brain continued working, making connections across domains that seemed unrelated. The solution was there all along, hidden in the spaces between different areas of knowledge. The process involves a delicate dance between different sleep stages. During light sleep and REM sleep, the brain becomes less constrained by logic and causality. Connections that would seem absurd while awake become possible. A dream might combine images from 3 different memories, and in that combination, a creative insight emerges. The brain is not bound by the rules of waking thought. It is free to explore, to combine, to synthesize. This is why artists, writers, and inventors have long spoken of sleep as a source of creativity. They were not speaking poetically alone. They were describing a biological reality. Sleep is not a pause in mental life. It is a different kind of mental life, one optimized not for immediate problem solving, but for the discovery of new possibilities. The emotional consolidation we explored in the previous section plays a role here as well. When emotions are softened during sleep, when the intensity of fear or frustration is reduced, the mind becomes more flexible. You can approach old problems from new angles. You can see possibilities you could not see when anxiety was high. The reduction of emotional intensity is not a loss, it is a liberation. Now this creative synthesis does not happen randomly. Certain conditions enhance it. The quality of your sleep matters profoundly. Deep sleep, where brainwaves slow and synchronize, appears particularly important for the reorganization of information. REM sleep, where dreams are most vivid, contributes its own form of creative processing. The full cycle, moving through these stages multiple times across the night, creates the optimal conditions for synthesis. The amount of sleep also matters. A single night of adequate sleep can produce noticeable improvements in creative problem solving. But sustained sleep over days and weeks deepens the effect. Your brain is not just reorganizing what you learned yesterday, it is continuously refining your entire knowledge base, finding new connections, building more sophisticated understanding. There is also a gentle paradox here worth considering. The harder you try to force a solution while awake, the more rigid your thinking becomes. You follow the same neural pathways, the same logical chains. But when you step away, when you allow yourself to rest, your brain explores freely. The solution often comes not through effort but through surrender, not through forcing but through allowing. This is why taking breaks during learning is so valuable. Not because your brain is resting passively, but because it is actively reorganizing, and why sleep after learning is so essential. Your brain needs time in this different mode of operation, this creative, synthetic mode, to fully integrate what you have learned. As you drift towards sleep tonight, you might imagine your brain as a composer, taking the melodies learned during the day and weaving them into new symphonies. The themes remain, but they combine in fresh ways. Old knowledge becomes new understanding. Separate facts become integrated wisdom. Where are you listening from right now, and as you prepare for sleep? What question or problem have you been turning over in your mind? Sometimes the most creative insights arrive not when we are searching, but when we have finally let go. Your brain is a master rehearsal hall. While you rest, it stages a performance of everything you have learned. This is not imagination. This is neuroscience unfolding in the silence of night. Every sleep cycle follows a precise architecture. Your mind does not simply shut down. It moves through distinct stages, each one serving a specific purpose in the theater of memory consolidation. Understanding this rhythm reveals why some nights of sleep transform you, while others leave you unchanged. When you first fall asleep, your brain enters light sleep. Your breathing slows, your muscles relax. Theta waves emerge in your hippocampus, those gentle oscillations that mark the beginning of memory processing. This stage seems quiet, unimportant, yet it is here that your brain begins to index the day's experiences, tagging them for deeper work ahead. Then comes deeper sleep. Your brain waves slow further. Delta waves dominate. This is where the real consolidation begins. Your hippocampus, that seahorse-shaped structure deep in your brain, engages in a dialogue with your cortex. Information flows backward. The hippocampus, which held memories temporarily during the day, now hands them over to the cortex for permanent storage. This transfer is not instantaneous. It is methodical, layered, profound. But there is more. Rapid eye movement sleep, or REM, arrives in waves throughout the night. Your eyes flicker beneath closed lids. Your body is temporarily paralyzed, yet your mind is vividly alive. During REM, your brain does not simply replay memories, it remixes them. It finds unexpected connections. It builds bridges between isolated facts, transforming knowledge into understanding. Different types of learning depend on different sleep stages. Procedural memories, the skills you practice, the motor patterns you develop, consolidate most powerfully during deep sleep and REM. This is why a musician who sleeps after practice plays better the next day, even without additional rehearsal. The sleep itself was the rehearsal. The brain ran through the movements again and again, refining neural pathways, strengthening synaptic connections. Declarative memories, facts, dates, information you consciously recall, consolidate across multiple stages, but especially during lighter sleep and early REM periods. A student who reads material, then sleeps, remembers more than one who reads and stays awake. The sleep acts as a filter, separating signal from noise, embedding what matters while discarding what does not. The complete sleep cycle lasts roughly 90 minutes. Your brain cycles through these stages multiple times each night. Early cycles emphasize deep sleep, where physical restoration and procedural learning dominate. Later cycles shift toward longer REM periods, where emotional integration and creative synthesis flourish. This is why the last 2 hours of sleep are so crucial for creative insight. They are dominated by REM, by the brain's capacity to weave disparate threads into new patterns. A student who crams all night learns less than one who studies, sleeps, then reviews. Why? Because without sleep, the hippocampus remains saturated with information. New learning interferes with old. The brain cannot consolidate. But with sleep, the hippocampus is cleared. Fresh space opens. The next day's learning finds room to settle. Consider what happens across a full night. You enter sleep. Your hippocampus begins its work, replaying the day's experiences at accelerated speed. Your cortex listens, absorbs, integrates. Hours pass. Your brain cycles through stages. By the time you wake, something fundamental has shifted. Knowledge that seemed scattered has become coherent. Skills that felt clumsy now feel smoother. Insights that did not exist yesterday now seem obvious. This is why sleep deprivation impairs learning so severely. It is not merely that you are tired. It is that your brain cannot perform the consolidation that transforms experience into knowledge. Without sleep, learning is incomplete. It remains in temporary storage, vulnerable to decay, unable to influence your thinking or behavior. The architecture of sleep also explains individual differences in learning. Some people naturally sleep in longer cycles. Others cycle more rapidly. Some spend more time in REM. Others spend more in deep sleep. These differences affect how you learn, what you learn best, how quickly knowledge becomes automatic. Knowing this, you might ask, what is the optimal sleep schedule for learning? The answer is not rigid. Your brain knows what it needs. If you are learning something new, your body often demands more sleep. If you are consolidating procedural skills, you may sleep longer than usual. Trust these impulses. Your brain is signaling that consolidation is underway, that the rehearsal requires extended time. As you lie in bed tonight, know that your brain is not resting. It is working. It is running through the day's lessons again and again. It is building connections you did not consciously make. It is strengthening pathways you did not know existed. The silence of sleep is not emptiness, it is fullness. It is your brain at its most creative, most productive, most intelligent. This understanding transforms sleep from mere rest into an active learning tool. You are not wasting time by sleeping. You are investing in yourself. Every hour of sleep is an hour your brain spends becoming smarter, more skilled, more capable of insight. The night rehearsal continues. Your brain stages its performance, and you, the audience, wake transformed. Your body operates on an ancient rhythm. This rhythm does not belong to clocks or schedules. It belongs to the sun, to light, to the deep patterns of life itself. Your brain has learned this rhythm over millions of years, and it still follows it tonight, even in your bedroom with the lights dimmed. This is your circadian rhythm. It is not simply a schedule for sleep and wakefulness. It is the conductor of everything your brain does, including how it learns and remembers. Think of your brain as a library that reorganizes itself every single day. During daylight hours, new books arrive constantly. Your senses bring information, your experiences create memories, your learning accumulates. But a library cannot function if books are scattered everywhere. Someone must organize them. Someone must place them on shelves where they belong. That someone is your circadian rhythm working with your sleep cycles. When light enters your eyes in the morning, a tiny region deep in your brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus receives this signal. Scientists call it the master clock. It is master because it coordinates everything else. It tells your body to wake. It tells your hormones to shift. It prepares your brain for learning and attention. Cortisol rises gently. Your body temperature increases. Your mind becomes alert. This is not random. This is precision. As the day progresses, your brain accumulates what we might call learning debt. You learn facts in a conversation. You practice a skill with your hands. You experience emotions in relationships. You solve problems at work. Each of these creates neural changes, small rearrangements of connections between neurons. But these rearrangements are temporary. They are like sketches. They need to become permanent. Your circadian rhythm monitors this accumulation. As evening approaches and light decreases, your brain recognizes the signal. The suprachiasmatic nucleus sends new instructions. Melatonin begins to rise. This hormone is often called the sleep hormone, but it is more than that. It is a signal to your brain that consolidation time is approaching. It is a whisper that says, soon you will rest. And during that rest, everything you have learned today will be organized and stored. This is why students who study in the morning and sleep that night remember more than students who cram all night and sleep the next day. It is not willpower or intelligence, it is timing. It is synchronization. The brain is ready to consolidate what it learned during that specific day's light cycle. Now imagine what happens when you ignore this rhythm. You stay awake late studying. You ignore the melatonin signal. You push through the evening when your brain is trying to prepare for consolidation. Your brain is like a library trying to organize books while customers are still arriving with new ones. The organization never completes. The books pile up. Nothing is properly shelved. When you finally sleep, your brain must work harder. It must catch up. It must consolidate not just today's learning, but yesterday's as well. This is why sleep deprivation creates such profound memory problems. It is not that your brain cannot learn. It is that consolidation falls behind. Learning accumulates faster than it can be organized. But there is something more subtle happening. Your circadian rhythm does not simply trigger sleep. It synchronizes the quality of sleep itself with what you need to consolidate. On days when you have practiced physical skills intensively, your brain spends more time in deep sleep that night. Deep sleep is when procedural memories are consolidated. Your brain knows this. It adjusts. On days when you have learned many facts or had creative insights, your brain spends more time in REM sleep. REM is when facts become integrated and creative connections form. Your circadian rhythm, working with your brain's own intelligence, allocates sleep stages according to what you need. This is adaptation. This is learning at its most sophisticated. Your body temperature also follows this rhythm. It rises during the day to support alertness and learning. It drops in the evening to prepare for sleep. This temperature drop is crucial. It signals to your brain that consolidation should begin. When you sleep in a cool room, your body can drop its temperature more effectively. This is why cool bedrooms improve sleep quality. It is not comfort alone. It is synchronization with your circadian rhythm. The rhythm continues through the night. Your brain cycles through sleep stages repeatedly. Each cycle lasts roughly 90 minutes. Light sleep gives way to deep sleep, then to REM, then back to light sleep. This is not accidental. This sequence is the optimal order for consolidation. Your brain has evolved to organize learning in this specific pattern. As morning approaches, your circadian rhythm begins its shift again. Body temperature rises, cortisol increases, melatonin decreases. Your brain gradually emerges from sleep, and the library is organized. The books are shelved. The sketches have become permanent drawings. Here is what matters most. When you sleep at times aligned with your circadian rhythm, consolidation becomes more efficient. The same amount of sleep provides more benefit. The same learning creates stronger memories. This is why night shift workers often struggle with memory despite sleeping the same hours. Their sleep is misaligned with their circadian rhythm. Their brain is trying to consolidate during the wrong biological time. You can feel this rhythm in your body right now. Notice the gentle heaviness in your eyes as evening deepens. Notice the slight cooling of your skin. Notice the quieting of your thoughts. These are not random sensations. These are your circadian rhythm communicating with you, inviting you toward rest. Your brain is preparing to become a student of its own learning. In sleep, it will review everything you have learned today. It will test connections. It will strengthen what matters. It will let go of what does not. This rehearsal happens without your conscious effort. Your brain is the teacher and the student simultaneously. This is the biological clock of memory. It has been ticking in your brain since before you were born. It will continue ticking tonight, organizing, consolidating, preparing your mind for tomorrow's learning. And as you drift towards sleep, know that your brain is not resting. It is working. It is studying. It is becoming wiser with every cycle of sleep. Now that you understand how your circadian rhythm guides when consolidation happens, we can explore something more intimate. How to work with your brain's natural learning rhythm rather than against it. Your brain is not a passive storage device waiting to be filled. It is an active architect, constantly deciding what deserves to become permanent and what should fade. This decision-making process intensifies during sleep, but it begins the moment you stop trying to remember and start allowing yourself to rest. Think of learning like planting seeds. You scatter them throughout the day with attention, repetition, and focus, but the seed does not grow while you are watching it. Growth happens in darkness, in silence, in the soil where you cannot see. Sleep is that soil. Your brain is the gardener working through the night. When you study something new, your hippocampus receives the information like a temporary visitor. It holds this knowledge loosely, ready to discard it if it seems unimportant. But here is the subtle wisdom. What you review before sleep gets a different treatment. It receives a signal. Your brain interprets review as a message that says, "This matters, preserve this." This is not magic. It is biology speaking through behavior. When you review material in the hours before sleep, you activate the neural pathways that encode that information. During the following night, especially in deep sleep and REM, your brain replays those pathways. The hippocampus communicates with the cortex, transferring the temporary into the permanent. The visitor becomes a resident. But there is more to this than simple timing. The quality of your wakefulness shapes the quality of your sleep learning. If you study frantically, with tension in your shoulders and racing thoughts, your brain receives fragmented information. The neural pathways are confused, overlapping, unclear. When sleep arrives, consolidation becomes inefficient. Your brain struggles to organize what was never properly organized in the first place. Contrast this with learning that flows. When you approach new material with curiosity rather than pressure. When you allow yourself to pause and breathe between study sessions, your brain encodes information more cleanly. The pathways are distinct. The connections are clear. During sleep, consolidation becomes elegant. Information transfers smoothly from temporary to permanent storage. This is why students who sleep after learning remember more than students who continue studying. Continuing to study adds noise. It creates competition for consolidation. Your brain cannot simultaneously hold new information and transfer old information. Sleep creates space for transfer. There is a practical rhythm that works with your biology. Study intensely for 30 to 50 minutes, then step away, walk, look at something distant, let your mind wander. This breaks the intensity and allows your brain to begin initial consolidation even while you are awake. Then study again. This rhythm of focus and release repeated through the day creates multiple waves of learning that your brain can process during sleep. The hours immediately before sleep are sacred for learning. If you review what you learned during the day in the hour before bed, you prime your brain for consolidation, not cramming, not panic studying. Gentle review, calm recall. This signals to your brain that this knowledge is worth preserving through the night. What you eat also influences this process, though not in the way you might expect. Your brain does not need sugar or stimulants to consolidate learning. It needs stability. A balanced meal several hours before sleep allows your blood sugar to remain steady through the night. Steady blood sugar means stable neural activity. Stable neural activity means efficient consolidation. Your sleep environment becomes part of your learning strategy. A cool room, around 65 degrees Fahrenheit, allows your brain to maintain the precise temperature it needs for deep sleep consolidation. Darkness signals to your brain that this is time for internal work, not external vigilance. Silence, or gentle ambient sound, allows your brain to focus on its own rhythms rather than external stimuli. Consider also what you do not do before sleep. Screens emit light that confuses your circadian rhythm. The stimulation of social media or news creates emotional activation that interferes with consolidation. Intense exercise too close to bedtime raises your core temperature and activates your nervous system. These are not failures of discipline. They are simply incompatible with the biological conditions your brain needs for learning to take root. The paradox of learning through sleep is this: you cannot force it, you can only create the conditions for it to happen. You prepare the soil, you plant the seed, you step back. Your brain does the rest. This understanding transforms how you approach your own growth. You stop seeing sleep as lost time, as a gap in productivity. You begin seeing it as the essential workspace where learning becomes real. You stop fighting your body's need for rest. You start honoring it as part of your education. Your brain is rehearsing through the night. It is practicing what you learned. It is making connections you did not consciously make. It is building understanding from scattered facts. While you sleep, you are becoming more skilled, more knowledgeable, more integrated with what you have learned. This is the gift of understanding sleep. It transforms rest from something you do to yourself into something you do for yourself. A choice, an investment, an act of self-respect. Where are you listening from right now? What time is it where you are? I wonder if you are preparing for sleep or reflecting on how you will work with your brain's natural rhythms tomorrow. Either way, you now carry a different understanding of what happens when you close your eyes. As we reach the end of this journey through the nighttime rehearsals of your mind, something becomes clear. Sleep is not the absence of learning. Sleep is learning itself. It is the moment when everything you have touched, seen, and felt during the day transforms into something permanent within you. Think back to what we have explored together. Your brain moves through light sleep, deep sleep, and REM stages. Each one carries a different gift. In deep sleep, your muscles remember the piano piece you practiced. Your hands know the movement before your conscious mind does. In REM sleep, the facts you studied weave themselves into stories, connections, insights that feel almost like magic. But there is no magic here. Only biology. Only the extraordinary work your brain performs while you rest. Your circadian rhythm orchestrates this entire symphony. The suprachiasmatic nucleus, that tiny region in your brain, knows what time it is. It knows when you should sleep. It knows when your memories are most ready to consolidate. When you honor this rhythm, when you sleep at times that align with your body's deepest wisdom, learning becomes effortless. Your brain does not fight against itself, it flows, and yet none of this happens by accident. The conditions matter. The cool room matters. The darkness matters. The gentle review before sleep matters. The food you chose to nourish yourself matters. These are not luxuries. They are invitations. They are the way you say to your brain, I trust you. I will create the space where you can do your best work. This is what we have learned across these hours together. Learning is not something that happens only when you are awake, struggling, forcing information into your mind through repetition and effort. Learning is something that happens when you rest, when you surrender, when you create the right conditions and then let go. There is a profound shift in how we should think about sleep. In our culture, sleep is often seen as lost time, as laziness, as something to minimize. But now, you know the truth. Sleep is the most productive thing you can do. While you sleep, your brain is working harder than it does during many waking hours. It is sorting, connecting, strengthening, integrating. It is turning the raw material of experience into the foundation of who you are becoming. Students who sleep remember more, not because they are smarter, not because they studied harder, but because they understood something essential. Learning happens twice. It happens once when you encounter something new. It happens again more deeply while you sleep. The first encounter is the spark. Sleep is where the spark becomes fire. Think about a skill you have learned. Perhaps you learned to swim, or to play an instrument, or to speak a new language. You remember the effort, you remember the repetition, but you might not remember the exact moment when it became easy. That moment happened in sleep. Your brain rehearsed it without you. Your muscles learned it without your conscious effort. One morning you woke up, and something that was hard had become natural. This is the gift your brain gives you every single night. It takes what is fragile and makes it strong. It takes what is isolated and connects it to everything else you know. It takes what is conscious and effortful and transforms it into something that flows from you like breathing. As we close this exploration, I want you to understand something that might seem simple but contains everything. You are never done learning. Your brain never stops. Even now, as you listen to these words, your brain is encoding them. Tonight, when you sleep, your brain will consolidate what we have discussed. The ideas will settle deeper. They will connect with other things you know. They will become part of how you think, how you see the world. This means that sleep is not the end of learning. Sleep is where learning truly happens. Sleep is the essential partner in every education, every skill, every transformation you pursue. Without sleep, you cannot become who you wish to be. With sleep, with proper sleep, aligned with your rhythm, supported by the conditions you create, you can become almost anything. The invitation now is simple. It is not to learn more, it is to rest more wisely. It is to create the conditions we have discussed. A cool room, darkness, a gentle review of what you wish to remember, nourishment that supports your brain, and then sleep. Real, deep, uninterrupted sleep. Your brain is an eternal student. It learns in the classroom. It learns in conversation. It learns in experience. But its greatest learning happens in silence, in darkness, in the stillness of sleep. This is where mastery is built. This is where wisdom is formed. This is where you become yourself. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the nighttime rehearsals of your mind. We have traveled from the basic science of sleep stages, through the rhythm that orchestrates your learning, to the practical conditions that make consolidation possible. We have seen that sleep is not rest from learning. Sleep is the completion of learning. Sleep is where everything becomes real. If this experience has brought you understanding, if it has shifted how you think about sleep and learning, I would deeply appreciate your like and your subscription to Relaxing Science. Let us know in the comments, what will you do differently tonight? How will you honor your brain's need for proper sleep? What skill or knowledge are you hoping to consolidate? I invite you to return to this channel whenever you need to remember that your brain is working for you even when you rest, that learning is happening even in silence, that you are becoming, moment by moment, night by night, the person you are meant to be. Sleep well. Your brain is listening. Your brain is learning. Your brain is preparing you for tomorrow and for all the tomorrows to come. This is the gift of sleep. This is the power of rest. This is the extraordinary truth about the nighttime rehearsals happening within you right now.